is a beautiful soul in this world. She is more bendy than I've ever seen anyone before. She's just a credible person. Em, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are, and just a little bit about you?
Thank you, darling. So my name's Em. I guess I wear many hats. I'm a PR and marketing consultant. That's kind of my professional background.
Yeah.
I'm also a yoga teacher, which is where the bendiness comes in. And I've been practicing yoga for about 10 years now. So I started when I was in my teens, which I'm pretty grateful for. It was an option at school to do either some kind of sport or yoga, and I was like, obviously I'm going to do yoga. I know, many moons ago.
I've never heard of that before.
Right? I was just lazy and didn't want to do PE. So
I'm so impressed that schools even have that option.
yeah, well they do a lot more now. Like I was home for Christmas and my niece is 3 or something, and she's doing it in her kindergarten. Crazy.
That.
Like, down, Madame.
Someone with a 3.5-year-old, that just really warms my heart.
It's cool, isn't it? So I started practicing yoga at a young age. And I guess kind of my journey mapped along that kind of, I was very, very type A and competitive at school, very striving, very kind of quick to be anxious and just like, ready to take over the world. And at 18, I grew up in Newcastle. And at 18, I decided to move to Melbourne to study public relations. I'd been, doing internships already throughout high school and was like, oh, this is it. I basically just, wanted to be like one of the girls from Sex and the City. I was going to move to Melbourne, live this metropolitan life.
Oh, yes.
Coming from this small town just out of Newcastle. So I moved to Melbourne to study and went down that very much, partying kind of lifestyle. The very, the traditional approach to university.
As we've all done. Yes.
Partied very hard at a young age. And sort of as I was progressing through my degree, I had my last year to go, and I went on an overseas trip to Thailand and was, like, I'm going to be honest, I was partying like a rock star. I was drinking all the buckets, doing all the things. It was a very fun
and you
wild
were
trip.
really good at it,
I was
weren't you?
great at it.
That's
It's the
good.
life of a party. I nailed that. So during that time, I got sick. And I kind of just thought, it's the usual Thailand stomach bug, gastro, whatever. Didn't think of it, thought of it like a bad kind of hangover, but just had this feeling that something wasn't right. So I always had this awareness that there was this kind of inner voice being like, this is connected to the Thailand trip, you should go down a more natural path, but you get a bit fearful when you're really, really sick and
you read too much.
And you read too much, and there's this and there's that. And so on one hand, I was like, maybe I should go gluten-free. And I was it was around the time of the boom of the health bloggy kind of world. And I was like reading these blogs and being like, oh, should I do that? Should I do this? But then still kind of partying, but then getting to the point where I was just so sick that I was sitting at home on a Saturday night by myself, just throwing up in a bucket in my room. And that was my norm. And it got psychologically to the point where it was so normal to me to be so sick. And I went to all these specialists and gastrologists and different things. And I remember I went to one gastrologist, and it was just before Christmas. And I was just crying in her office. She's like, other than I got a stomach ulcer. She's like, other than the stomach ulcer from all the vomiting, there's nothing, I can't find anything wrong with you. So at least you'll look like Miley Cyrus by Christmas. And I was like, oh,
She said that?
She said that. I was 21. On my own, just going.
I can't say that to a 21-year-old.
I know. So psychologically, I started going, is this all in my head? Am I creating this? Like, what's going on? And so anyway, but I still had that very striving kind of attitude. So I remember going to uni, and my uni friends were like, Em, you look like death. What are you doing here? And I'm like, no, I'm finishing my degree. And so I went a little bit insane. And it was sort of those last 6 months of my degree when the end of your uni gets quite hectic. And I just became so used to not being able to eat anything and keep any food down that I went into total survival mode. And the only thing that kept me sane was I was going to yoga every morning. And I started practicing the Gertrude Street Yoga Meditation Center. I was living in Fitzroy. It's one of my favorite studios. It's very grounded in traditional lineages of yoga. There's lots of meditation. It's not like a fast, flowy vinyasa environment. It's a very there's a little bit more like spirituality and depth to their teachings. And so anyway, I left uni, started working in-house, and I just wanted a job where I could travel. I've been obsessed with traveling for forever. I've been traveling solo since I was about 16, doing different trips and things. So it was a big part of me. And so got this job working in-house with a tech company, kind of like a startup scene, and got to travel to Singapore and do launches and to America and San Francisco. And I worked there for almost 2 years, and at first I loved it. I had this kind of, that's still very type A, kind of climb the ladder and take over the world. And kind of as it went along, it was like this case of ignoring what you know. So I've known my truth, I think, for forever. And I've gone through this process of just masking it. So I'm in this job, which is by all accounts my dream job, and I have all the freedom to do all these things, and it's great. And I'm starting to notice more and more and more that I'm wanting to less go to the networking cocktail party drinks, and I'm like, actually just want to go to a yoga class. And I'm the weirdo at the office with the SCOBY and the kombucha and, the green smoothies at lunchtime. And everyone's like, right? Everyone's like, oh my God. And meanwhile, everyone's at pub lunch.
Yeah.
So I never felt like I quite really fit in that environment. I was always the crazy one. And so I'd gotten back from a trip from San Francisco. And it was at that time that I came back home, and I was with my partner at the time, and I just said, I was like, I'm not happy. This is not what I want. Like, I'm coming home from work, and on one hand, it's my dream job and it's amazing and I'm excelling. On the other hand, I'm an anxious wreck. I'm having anxiety attacks. I'm stressed out. And at the time, I couldn't figure out why my skin wasn't getting better, and I had really bad acne, and I'm like, I'm out. So I put in my resignation, first I bought a one-way ticket to Paris, because I'd always just wanted to go to Paris, and that was it, backtracked. So then had about 6 months of, okay.
And you quit your job not having a backup.
Oh yeah, no backup.
Yeah.
No backup plan. It was just like, you know what? I'm going to make this work.
Yeah.
And so the other kind of health journey that was going on at that time was finding out that my skin wasn't clearing up, and figuring out that was because I had polycystic ovaries. And continued going down that kind of, taking herbs and all these kinds of things. And it was working to an extent, but my naturopath said to me, I think you might be stressed. And this is before I'd quit my job. And I was like, I'm not stressed, I do yoga. I'm so not stressed. Yeah. And she's like,
I do yoga and meditation.
I meditate twice a day.
And I have crystals, and I'm perfect.
Yeah, I'm a real hippie. I'm not stressed. She's like, okay. So she just softly floated it, and then I really realized that actually I'm working in a job that is making me very stressed, and it's creating a lifestyle for myself that I actually don't want to live. And so once I bought the one-way ticket, I then booked in to do my teacher training, used up all my annual leave to go and do my yoga teacher training. And that was a big, huge transformational shift in really feeling like, oh, this is where I want to be. These are the people I want to be around. This is what I want to be doing with my days. And I came back and started teaching in the office. And then the time came where I put in my resignation and got on the plane to Europe and did the whole, 6 months of travel and whatnot. And then again, ended up living in Berlin, and it was another case of ignoring what I already knew to be my truth, which was that I was super passionate about health and wellness and yoga. And went, oh, okay, probably should get a job. Ended up working in another tech startup because that was what I was good at. And I just remember coming home from the office, and it's freezing in Berlin. It was winter, so it's minus 20 degrees. It's dark at 2 o'clock. So not seeing sunlight. I remember just coming home, and my boyfriend at the time would meet me at home, and I would just bawl my eyes out. I was like, I am miserable. And now I'm on the other side of the world, and I'm miserable. Like, what am I doing? This is crazy. And so I remember just hating this job. It was a joke how much I just was so miserable. And I sat in a cafe with a friend of mine, and a new friend, and she was like, well, if you could do anything, like professionally, what would you really want to do? And I said to her, I was like, well, I'd love to teach yoga, and I'd love to be a consultant. Like, I feel like I can really help people, and I'm passionate, and PR and marketing is the way in which I think. It's a natural kind of skill that I have, and I want to help people, and I want to be a writer, and I want to do all these things, but I don't really know how. And she's like, well, why don't you just do it? I thought,
You're like, what?
Okay.
What do you mean? Just do it.
Just
what does that even mean?
Right. And so that whole time, during the kind of parasite thing, I'd started a blog with a girlfriend of mine, all sharing recipes, because I'd gone gluten-free and had to relearn how to eat, and that kind of journey I mapped with this blog. So I was and it was sort of as that world was starting to boom, and I was sort of aware of the fact that I knew I could write, I knew I could do kind of website back-end things, and I'd met a guy who ran a cafe at the time in Melbourne, a juice cafe, and he had asked me to write some blog posts, and I was like, sure. And then I just thought, I'm going to follow up with him. So I followed up with him, and he put the blog post on his website, and it was like this tiny little image, and the text was all over the place, and I was like, oh no, dude, if you're going to have a blog, like at least put some effort in. And he just had no idea. And so I just had this feeling, and I went with it, and I just wrote him an email and said, hey, like I know stuff about marketing and PR and these kinds of things, and I think I could help you. And that's kind of how the freelancing journey started.
Wow.
And so then I spent a year of traveling around Europe and working on my laptop and doing the whole digital nomad thing. And it just, I didn't even have a website. It just all kind of happened. It wasn't, it's actually only really been about a year since I actually built the website. I've been doing freelance work for 4 years now.
And did you put it out there to the universe? Like, did you do any vision boards or manifesting?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of meditation on it, and just kind of really, at that stage, my meditation practice was really just like trying to quieten down and just listen. And I've always felt like I've had that strong sense of intuition, but I've ignored it. And so it was this process of going, okay, how does this actually make me feel, and what do I think I should do in this moment, and what do I actually really want to do? So it was always coming back and connecting to the heart space and trying to make decisions from that, and it just started working. And so we decided to move back from Berlin and came back to Melbourne, and it just flowed from there. I started working with different health companies here, doing all sorts of things. PR, marketing, I started teaching yoga. I moved back to Fitzroy at the time, and it's just I was just really busy with different clients and things, and kind of thought, I wonder what the next iteration of this is. And I had always kind of thought, I wonder if there's a way that I can combine the yoga and the marketing stuff, because the people I work with are very niche, and a lot of them, all of them, they're doing their product or their brand or whatever it is that they're working on because it's their passion, and they feel like it's their passion, it's their purpose. And in yoga we talk about it as being dharma. And so I wanted to run these kinds of workshops, and I was so caught up for probably almost a year on trying to name it, and started getting in that overthinking, overanalyzing.
And everything needed
Everything had to
be
be perfect. I'm gonna have to buy, pay a designer and make a logo and put all these barriers in place. And the startup world really taught me about this minimal viable product approach of just like put something out there, test it. If it works, then invest in it. And so I was like, I'm just going to start doing it. So I started running these workshops, and I couldn't think of a name, and I'm like, it's like mindful marketing. I guess that's kind of how I would describe it. And so I just threw that term out there in an email to someone. They're like, sure, I'm in. And so then I started booking workshops, and then it just very organically, someone told their friend, and then they told their friend, and the next minute I'm doing more privates, and then people were like, can you do them in a group? And so then I actually sat down and thought, maybe I'll build a booklet and make it an actual course, and then just kind of did that, and then that's a thing, and it's just like, okay, I probably should get a website.
And it's all because of your truth. Like, you didn't know what you were doing.
No.
You had no idea what you're doing. You
I
didn't
was
have a
just
rule book. You didn't have
following.
someone telling you. You literally just trusted yourself and where you wanted to go.
And that's really been my whole journey, and that's what yoga has really, really taught me, is just like trust and listen to yourself. And it's on a more esoteric level, it's this kind of understanding of like, you are the universe, you are the creator, you are everything that you need, but we get so caught up in the mind and society expectations, and I still have members of my family say to me, so when are you going to get a real job? Because people don't get it. They're like, so how do you make money? And like, what do you do? And they'll see an article like written about me, or that I write for Body+Soul or something, and they're just like, oh, you're a journalist. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you can say that.
Because
that's
people,
fine.
I find, have everyone needs a label. And I don't personally like labels. Everyone needs to be labelled as something.
Which box do you fit into?
Exactly.
Because that makes me feel safe.
Something we were talking about the other day, Em, is yoga. For me, I find it really challenging. Like, I can go to a boxing class, go for a run, go for a walk, whatever, no problems. But yoga, I find challenging. And I'm not good at it. And there's no such thing as not being good at yoga.
Bad at yoga.
Yes, but that's the perception I have, and I know that a lot of other people do have, is because you know, I'm not bendy, I'm a giraffe.
And you're blessed with beautiful long limbs.
Long limbs.
That is a common, I teach a lot of beginner classes, and that's always the thing. People are like, just so you know, I'm not very flexible. I'm like, well, that's great. You've come to the right place. We can definitely work on that. But the actual path of yoga is so much more than just getting on the mat and doing some asana, the physical postures. And so that you can't be bad at that, because there's lots of different things within that you might understand better than how to touch your toes. So it's sort of exposing yourself to the whole practice in a way. But the thing that I think most people find challenging is that it's something you have to do with yourself. So yeah, you can be in a room with 30 other people and there's music and it's a fun way to move your body. But there's ultimately still, even if it's the moment of shavasana, laying down in the end, or the meditation portion, you've got to be with yourself. And one of my teachers always says, if you turn yoga into a competition, you're competing against yourself, and then yourself is going to lose. And it's that thing, because I think so much, especially in this kind of Instagram world where we're seeing all these people doing crazy handstands and back bends, and
I look at that and I think I want to do that.
And I say to people though, like, so many of those people that I know, they're ex-gymnasts or they're a dancer, or like for me, I've been practicing and training this for over 10 years, and so it's just become like something that I've worked on, and all my flexibility has been gained through that practice and dedication and showing up every day dedicated to something. And to me, it's showing up every day being dedicated to yourself, and that kind of, it's a self-care practice, it's all the things. And there's so many moments where I get onto my mat and I'm like, oh gosh, all the emotions are coming out, and it's, for me, that's that sacred space and time to be with yourself. And so if you say you're not good at yoga, just got to come and try it.
Yes.
Because
and make a commitment to it, not just try it once, like actually do it every week.
Give it a try from a consistency point of view, because it's meant to be a practice. It's the practice of yoga. And yoga as a word in itself means union or yoking. So has actually nothing to do with the movement. It's like I said, it's a whole system, but that, it's like, how can you be bad at unification? You learn through that practice, and that's why it's called the practice of yoga. You practice unity, you practice being with yourself, understanding your breath, your mind, your thoughts, all these things. They say when you can control the breath, you can control the mind. And so it's this practice of becoming aware, of waking up. And for me, that's what it really was it was cultivating that deep awareness of self and the power within that. And yeah, it's just, you're obviously not going to get this from one yoga class.
No, or two or three or four.
But it's that practice and that journey.
So is it like a moving meditation?
Yes, definitely. And there's a lot of mindfulness that's been, especially in modern yoga, being kind of entwined in. So if you think about mindfulness, I kind of like to translate it to just being mindful. So your mind is fully present in that moment and aware of everything that's happening and going on. And that complements yoga in that, like I said before, yoga is an awareness practice. So you're using that as a vehicle to become aware. I would say to my younger self is just keep trusting yourself, listen to yourself, and continue to go down, to continue to listen and follow, because not that I would take back any of the sickness and all these kinds of things, but quite a lot of it could have been not avoided, but if I listened a little bit more and stopped ignoring and acting out and reacting to things, and rather focusing on responding and listening.
How do you explain the difference between your ego and your intuition?
Interesting. So for me, the intuition is something, I guess, on a more subtle body level as well. It's that kind of inner space or inner teacher. Whereas the ego is more in the mind. And so the ego is very influenced by the intellect of, I was taught this and I watched this on TV and therefore I should do that. And it's that kind of ego and egotistical and all those kinds of words are very much, in my opinion, are very much in the mind and are very influenced by the intellect. Whereas the intuition is the heart. It's the coming back to the heart space. It's the feeling, it's the subtleties, it's that deep sense of knowing and your gut feeling. And there's all this science being researched into, the second brain that lives in your gut. And it's, when you get into those moments and straight away you're like, ooh, this isn't good.
Yeah.
But but your ego might tell you, and relating it into a yoga practice, it's like you might know that you're going too deep into an asana or a posture, but your ego is like, if I just pushed my leg a little bit further forward, I would nail this split. And that's usually when, like, pop, there goes your hamstring or something happens. And so it's this disconnect between the intellect and what all that stuff that you think you know and you think that you've been taught and learned, to that deep sense of knowing, that deep sense of inner wisdom that doesn't need to read about it in a magazine or a book or watch it on TV. It knows.
And well, I just wanted to acknowledge you. Thank you. I find you so incredibly inspiring. I love you. I watch all your yoga videos. I read all of your stories. And I just think you're incredible, and what you're doing in this world is incredible. So I want to acknowledge you and say thank you so much. And can you just tell us 3 things that you're grateful for today?
Oh, well, I'm grateful that I'm getting on a plane to go to New York tomorrow.
I'm so jealous.
I'm pretty grateful for that. I'm actually feeling really grateful for the friends that I have in my life. I'm feeling very supported this week by the community around me, and that whole idea of community over competition is really an inspiring.
It's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah, I feel really held, and I'm like, I'm just so grateful for the people in my life. So yeah, I'm grateful that I get to go on a plane to New York. I'm grateful for my beautiful friends, and I'm grateful for the beautiful food, because I've been preparing snacks for the plane, and I was thinking about it today, like I'm really lucky that I can take this beautiful organic food with me and to nourish my body and to have access to that and all these kinds of things.
I think that's something that people don't realise, is that you can bring your own food on the plane. You don't have to have plane
I am that
food.
person with like 2 kilos of snacks.
Yeah.
I've got all the kale salads, all the things, and you feel so much better.
Yes.
You're gonna land feeling like, you know,
Yeah, like
life's
well
not
rested.
worst.
Like I haven't.
I
Yeah.
haven't just eaten 4 kilos of salt and sugar and
Yeah.
So I think I'm grateful as well for the knowledge of that, because I've done a lot of flying, learned the hard way, and gone, actually, if you just
why do I feel so terrible right
Yeah.
now? Oh,
Yes,
it was the food.
it was
that
the
I
food.
ate.
So maybe I'll BYO and I'll feel great.
Yeah. All right, Em. Well, thank you so much for today.
Thank you,
that was
beautiful.
so wonderful.
Thanks for having me.